first off, I'm starting with Lucifer. Now, I got a lot of comments in some of the other videos asking me to do Lucifer, and I got some suggestions saying that they feel like they would see this Pokemon as like a big Giratina or a big fancy legendary, and I went, that's cool, but he's too silly to be a big Giratina lookalike. No, I'm making this motherfucker a duck. You know, I tend to do one character dirty every time, and I feel like doing Lucifer dirty this time. Even though I actually quite like this design, and it's not really doing him that dirty. I feel like he would like it. He loves dogs, after all. I'm making him a fancy, fluffy circus dog. I'm keeping the apple theme in his design since it has a lot to do with his background in the show and in lore as well. I change up the design a little bit as I go, but for most of it, I kind of had a general idea of what I was doing. I changed like the face shape and the eye shape and like the feathers in the hat I end up replacing with an apple later. And you can see me go through those changes bit by bit, but I had a design roughly in mind when I started this. I'm definitely inspired by Quackyaval. I feel like if Lucifer was going to be a Pokemon that already existed, it would be a Quackyaval, let's be honest. One thing I'm pretty happy about in the design is the big, long, flowing tail that kind of almost looks like a cape, like the end of a really long cloak or cape. I'm really digging that in the design. I gave him some hip, fluffy feather things. I'm not really too sure what to call them. I just kind of went with the idea that I had in my head and then just kind of went, okay, I'm just gonna play around with the accents and the patterns just as I go. I decide at some point he's not tall enough. I decide at a lot of points he's not tall enough, but in hindsight I probably should have kept him really short. That probably would have been like a little bit more accurate, but I just think he looked a little bit too goofy being that short. So once I'm happy with the design, I start going in with the colors. You could see a rearrange a little bit of his body. So I wanted to make his torso really long, but his legs aren't as long as they could be. So I jump in with the colors. I know he is meant to be the king of hell, but he just gives up such silly, sassy, fun vibes that I didn't feel like giving him a really serious design was going to work for what I wanted. I really like how I made the feathers actually part of the hat as well. That's probably one of my favorite things about the design, and I'm happy with the staff as well, that I kept that, or cane, whatever you want to call it. I just kind of take the colors that he has in his show design and kind of flip them around a little bit, just playing with where I want the different tones and how I want the design to stand out. In the end, I'm pretty happy with what I finished up with. Here is Lucifer Morningstar, our silly, goofy, lovable dad, who is our king of hell. Let's take a look at his Pokemon design. Okay, so this is Quackatane, the psychic and flying type. With a playful attitude and a dazzling display of attacks, this Pokemon is a natural show-off. It may appear quite funny and goofy, but it can be a powerful Pokemon if given proper direction and motivated with apples. I know I said at some point earlier I did him kind of dirty by making him a duck, but honestly he did actually turn out looking a bit more regal and royal than I initially intended, especially with his shading and highlights all finished up and done, and those piercing red pink glowing eyes. He's actually kind of handsome as a duck, not gonna lie. What do you guys think of Quackatane? Alright, next up we have Lilith. Now, at first I wasn't so sure what I wanted to do with her, and then I kind of remembered that she's kind of inspired by a siren, and I kind of wanted to dive into that. So with the theme I was going for in my head was heavenly, suspicious siren. So with those kind of mental prompts in mind, I dove into the design. I didn't really want to make it a specifically water type. I wanted to be inspired by the lore and the story of sirens, but I wanted to do something a little bit different with the typing, and we'll talk about that when we get to the reveal at the end. But this is the kind of design that I was going with. I feel like this Pokemon is not a Pokemon that lives in the water or sea. This is a Pokemon that flies around a lot, that would live in really high cliff areas, honestly, and I really love this design that I came up with. It's very inspired in my opinion. It doesn't just look like a slap Lilith's face on a Pokemon. It doesn't just look like I made a Gardevoir lookalike and then put some pearls on it and some lashes and went, this is Lilith, which is something I really didn't want to do. I wanted to do something really different with this design, and I'm really happy with it, honestly. I went with a love heart on the end of a tail. I kept the pearls that she has in her design. I also wanted to incorporate wings into her design to represent her past, being one of the first humans, being a pure heavenly kind of design, and then with the horn to symbolize the change in her character to then become fallen. So I wanted to incorporate both of those aspects in this design. I only did one horn. I didn't feel like doing two. I actually liked the singular horn in this design. I put a heart on the end of a tail to symbolize love. I'm happy with the colors. These are colors that are similar that show up in her actual design, with the blonde hair and the deep dark purple in her dress, although it's a bit lighter in this design. Here we have Lilith, the Queen of Hell. So many questions about this character. She is definitely not what I thought she would be in the show. When I started watching the show, I really thought that we were gonna have the fandom image of Lucifer and Lilith being really sweet, nice, cute lovers. Didn't turn out the way I thought it would, or a lot of us thought it would. I'm quite surprised by her character. She's so mysterious. We still don't really have any idea of what the fuck is going on with this bitch, but I'm so curious to find out more about her. Hopefully in season 2 we will get some answers. Anyway, let's take a look at her Pokemon design. This is Rain, the Psychic and Poison type. Poisoned by sin, this Pokemon can cause hypnosis and even illness with its siren-like singing voice. It sings to lure in its prey before making it sick, then strikes quickly and silently. It is rarely seen these days, but rumors say it is still out there. Also, can we just appreciate the typo of the word rumors? No, it's too late. I'm not gonna bother to change it, but I think it's kind of funny. Anyway, I made her a psychic and poison type because I wanted to do something different. I feel like her singing is going to become more of a focus or a plot point about her. I might be wrong, but I feel like it might go this way. I wanted to incorporate both of these types to show this Pokemon can poison and control the minds and perspectives of others, lure them in, and then get what it wants. What do you guys think of Rain? Next up, we have the first man, Adam. Now, I knew what I wanted to do with this immediately. You can see me start to attempt to draw the guitar axe that he has, and then I go, I don't know how to fucking draw it, so I borrow a screenshot of Adam. So thank you, Adam Screenshot, for existing and letting me copy this weapon, because I wanted to make this an Aegis form. I felt immediately like I wanted to do, again, something different with this. I decided another Aegis form would be really fun to do with Adam. I could have just made him demonic, I could have just made him angelic, I could have made him a mix of both. but I was really inspired to go with this idea, so I just went with it. So that's why I copied his weapon, because I wanted to use his weapon as his Pokemon design. And I also wanted to, again, make it an Aegislash form, so I've got the scarf cloth part of Aegislash up the top, and I've also got a shield on the other side. This is what I wanted to do with this design straight away. So honestly, there's not too much else for me to say about this design other than I decided to make him his weapon rather than him himself. So we've got Aegislash Adam here. I actually am happy with this design. It's not too different, but this is the vision that I saw, so it's his weapon, a shield, and a scarf and an eye. And I did change a tiny bit of it, like the end of the guitar axe, I did put in a little cross design, and you can see I also have a cross design in the shield as well. I play around with colors. At the last minute I decide to bring the purple into the scarf and the shield. So here we have First Man Adam. Honestly, at first, I didn't really like this character. I didn't really feel like his voice fit the character, and then I realized, oh no, it does fit perfectly. He's a fucking asshole. And the more I saw him in the show, the more I appreciated him for what he was meant to be. So I ended up actually really liking his character in the end. Let's check out his Pokemon design. This is Aegislash, the Fairy and Still type. This form of Aegislash glows with a heavenly light. It uses its cloth to play music, usually rock, to gain the attention of all other Pokemon in the area. It just seems to want to be the center of attention. It is narcissistic. This pride is its weakness. I like this design. It's simple, but yet it's different. It's not what you probably thought I was going to do, and I like that. I like that I can pull a 180 and go, you know what, bam, here's something completely fucking different. What do you guys think of this form of Aegislash? Okay, last up we have Loot. I struggled with this design. I did not know what I wanted to do. So at first I just started sketching, coming up with something strange and unique, and at some point I decided, you know what? What if she was a badass motherfucking dragon? And I'm really happy that I went with this design, because in the final design, this is probably my favorite one of the lot of today's designs. I am so happy with this. I made her a dragon mostly because of her personality. She is fiery, she is headstrong, she is determined, she is a beast. I love strong female characters, and she definitely represents that for me. And I felt like, okay, giving her the dragon typing really fits her personality. To me, anyway. So, as soon as I decided to make her a dragon, I gave her a strong yet slender, tough looking dragon body design. I decided to give her fuck off big feathered wings as well. And I did also keep the halo that she has in her show design. I feel like this actually kind of works interestingly well with the Pokemon design. I wanted to incorporate the X in her eyes, and that show up in a lot of the other Exterminators designs as well, but I put this in the tail instead. I keep the feathers in the neck and chest, so I feel like this dragon type would not be furry, it would not be scaly or smooth. This is a feathered dragon. And I come in and decide to change the face and put the horns in and the end of the mask kind of design that I have got going on. And I also play with a lot of different mouth designs. I settled on one for a little bit that kind of looks a bit like glalie, and then I realize it terrifies the living shit out of me, so I get rid of it and I give her a tiny little small mouth, kind of similar to a Dragonair or a Milotic, and I ended up making the hair on her design look more like hair, although it's quite stylized at this point. I did want to incorporate some sort of hair similar to her unmasked hair design, because I feel like that's a really neat feature. And then I threw some feathers in the tail as well, just to hone in the fact that this is a feather dragon. Now, with the colors, personally, I wanted to give this really different colors, but I end up going with the tones of gray and silver and black that are in her actual design. But if I had complete freedom over this design, I think I would have made it much more colorful, honestly. But in the end, I actually kind of like the color design that I have. The grays and the whites work well together, and it does make the whites stand out in a menacing way in this design. I feel like the exterminators are amazing in design. They are incredibly inspiring to me. The idea of making angels look horrifying is something I love, which is why I love biblically accurate angel designs, and I also love the exterminators designs because they're scary. And my final design of Loot's Pokemon is my favorite by far. Alright, here we have Loot the Lieutenant, ready to exterminate all of the demons in her fucking strong badass bitch outfit, and here is her Pokemon design. This is Extermite, the fairy and dragon type. Once a year, this Pokemon emerges from the shadows to purge cruelty from all it finds using its powerful glowing tail light. If its bright light does not change a Pokemon's emotions, it will attack them until they submit. I'm actually kind of digging the lore of this Pokemon, being like, it comes out, it tries to make all other Pokemon do what it sees is right. If they don't, if they're too headstrong and they deny following this Pokemon's instructions, it will beat them into fucking submission. I gave her the fairy typing because to me, fairy is mythical, it's light, it's angelic. I know you could argue that the psychic type is kind of almost the same thing, but I decided to go with the fairy type also because I wanted to tie it into Adam's Aegis design as well, and I didn't want to go with psychic type for that. But to me, fairy is more mythical and lore-based than psychic is. Again, it's honestly debatable, but this is what I decided to go with. And the dragon typing, like I explained earlier, powerful woman, how could I not give her the beastly type of dragon? What do you guys think of Extermite?